How much do you have to hate someone to believe they're going to hell, to believe that you can help prevent that, and to not do it? Hi, I'm Nathan. Welcome back to Holy Hypocrites. Forgive me if this is a little bit meandering. I had an episode planned for last Friday, recorded, and something was nagging. And so we're going to do this first. And then we'll push that, and that'll come out this coming Friday, I hope. Friday or next Monday. But in thinking about making disciples, and we defined a disciple as someone who is saved by Jesus, transformed by Jesus, and living to know him and make him known. This word living to know him and make him known, struck me, stopped me. There's something that I use a lot with students is the idea of habits, lifestyles, and priorities, and having those set up the way Jesus would set them up. And if we exist to know God and make him known, something I tell my students a lot is, if you are only knowing God and you're growing in knowledge, you're accumulating knowledge. And that's not a bad thing, but if you're only accumulating knowledge and you're not giving it away, you're not making him known, you are living in disobedience. I've used the example before of going to a sports game, pick your favorite sport, and sitting in the stands and watching your favorite team. If you're only sitting in the stands and watching from afar as the athletes do the work, as the athletes compete on the field, and you would find it weird if anyone came to you, a coach came to you and pulled you off the bench to be part of the game. That's the attitude we often go to church and we often approach Christianity with, is like, I'm saved and I'm happy that I'm saved and I wear the jersey and I own the title and I put the bumper sticker on my car. But I'm not like a pastor or a teacher, or that's not me. I'm not a missionary. One of my favorite preachers, Charles Spurgeon, said, every Christian is a missionary or an imposter. And that's scary, and that's uncomfortable, because we think of missionaries as people that go elsewhere and do the work in China and Zimbabwe and North Korea and all these places. Global missions is easier to celebrate for the church. It's easier to promote. It's easier to fundraise. And I think we overlook local. And in this pursuit of making disciples the way Jesus designed it, the way Jesus intended, look back at what Jesus said. He said, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem first, in Judea and Samaria and the world, local, regional, global. It's true, not everybody is called to China to be a missionary, but everybody, every Christian who has been saved by Jesus and is being transformed by Jesus is called to know him and make him known. You are. Whether that's uncomfortable to you or not, whether you're succeeding in that calling or not, you have been called. And you've been gifted. God has given you things to use for that mission. Again, that doesn't always mean global. Jesus didn't say, you will be my witnesses around the world. He said, you will be my witnesses locally, regionally, and globally. So maybe for you, let me tell you, first of all, for everyone, that starts at home. For everyone, local is home. For kids especially, kids as they start out, they don't have a driver's license, they don't have a job. Maybe they go to school, but home is local. Home is Jerusalem. You have parents and maybe siblings and extended family. Home. Home is making disciples. Home is knowing God and making him known. And then maybe the neighborhood as kids get a little older. When I was young, you could walk down the street. You could walk to the park with your friends. So maybe neighborhood is home. But anything beyond that is regional to a kid. Even school, even a sports, if you play baseball at a park or you play soccer somewhere or whatever, those teams that we think of commonly with children as mission fields are still regional. They're still an extension. They can't get there on their own. They can't do that on their own. Their calling is to know God and to begin to learn how to make him known in Jerusalem, at home. And the excitement of moving from childhood, being a kid, to being a teenager as a student, we try and move our language, even with our youth group, from calling them kids to calling them students. Because even as they move into that phase of life, they get a driver's license, they get a job, they have more activities. So maybe they're at school 10 hours a day instead of 8. that becomes local in its own way, but it's still home. Parents, you are still the most influential person in their lives. It's not their friends. It's not the people they follow online. It's not their teachers. Even if they have a favorite teacher or coach, it's still you. Science says you are still the most influential. It's not the youth pastor. I'd love to help, and I'd love to help you help, but it's still you. And so when we think about how Jesus called us to make disciples, he loved and he taught by example. He sent his followers to love and to teach. We talked about that before. I think it was the second podcast in this series. How did Jesus do it? Well, he loved and he taught the people, and he earned their listening ears. He earned their audience by loving so that he could teach them. And then he sent the 12 out to do exactly that, proclaim the kingdom, heal the sick, love and teach. And then he brought them back, and then he sent out the 72 again to teach and to love. And then at the end of his ministry, before he leaves, he says, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem first, Judea and Samaria, and to the end of the earth. Local, regional, global. An adult, some of you are thinking, well, I'm not a missionary. I have a job, I have a family, I can't drop everything and go somewhere. Well, the uncomfortable truth, and the reason I wanted to have a separate discussion just for this, is you are a missionary. If you have been saved by Jesus and you're being transformed by him, you are a missionary. You exist to know him and make him known. Maybe it's not China. Maybe it's in your neighborhood. And it's really awkward to talk to neighbors. In some way, it's more awkward than going to another country because you have to see these people. But that's where God put you. You don't live in, I tell students this about their classes. You don't live in your neighborhood by coincidence. You don't live next to the people you live next to by coincidence. Yes, Jesus said, love your neighbor. And a neighbor, we've loosely translated, can be many things, many unbelievers that you come across, but it can also literally be your neighbor. And that's awkward. But that's where God placed you. Jesus, the sovereign God, allowed you to live in your neighborhood. He allowed you to work with the exact people you work with. Maybe you see the same barista every day when you go to the coffee shop. Maybe you see the same people in line when you go to the coffee shop. You're a missionary. You might be a failing missionary. You might be a disobedient missionary. I say that softly because I am too. Because this is me too. I'm spending a separate episode on this because it's me too, because I was convicted by this too. That I haven't done as good a job with Jerusalem as I should. Because my students and the youth group and my ministry is more regional than it is local. Am I taking care of my wife and my kids and my household? Am I making Jesus known in my Jerusalem? Hey, let me pause for just a second and ask you to look down and make sure you are subscribed if you're on YouTube, or following the show if you're listening as a podcast. It helps me know that these are bringing value to someone, and it helps other people find them. So please just glance at that real quick and we'll get back to the show. I could have the biggest, healthiest, most exciting missions work, ministry work. I could have thousands in a youth group or in our church, thousands watching online, hundreds and hundreds getting saved. Am I serving my Jerusalem, my home? This hit me. So parents, it's not just you. Pastors, it's not just you. It's all of us going, ooh, Jesus also sent us local. And you're going, hey, well, okay, but I'm not a missionary. I'm not going to go out of the country. Fine. You live where you live. God knows where you live. Maybe your mission is to your neighborhood. Maybe it's to the first responders in your town. Maybe it's to the teachers in your school district. Well, Pastor, you don't know. My school district is super liberal. My school district would never accept Jesus into the schools. My school district is a closed, walled off door. Bible still gets into China and North Korea. I bet the Bible can still get into your school district. And you know what? I've said before, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. Maybe that means you have to bring donuts all the time to teachers. Maybe that means you have to go out of your way to serve the school district or to serve the first responders. Maybe once a month you make the rounds and bring a little care package or something to the firehouses in your town, to the police departments in your town. Maybe you have to do that for a long time with a little note of thanks and appreciation for what you do. And hey, we're praying for you. Not asking you to do anything. I'm praying for you. You don't know how long it'll take, but it is where God put you. I know that's uncomfortable and it's awkward, but if you've been saved by Jesus, if you are being transformed by Jesus, then a disciple lives to know God and make him known. This is your habits, lifestyles, and priorities from now on, is to know God and make him known, where he put you and where he sends you. And Jesus sent us first to Jerusalem, to our local. And I think that's something, speaking on the church side, I think that's something we have overlooked. We have under promoted local, and we have it's good to do missions. It's important. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But I think in an effort to get people to go over there and do the Judea, Samaria, and the end of the earth, we've underreached Jerusalem. We have set up churches in kind of safe, convenient places where we don't really have to do we don't feel like we have to do a lot of local work. Hey, local is good. Local is safe. We're going to go instead of loving local, instead of teaching, proclaiming the kingdom local. And local, first and foremost, is home. Local, first and foremost, is literally in our homes, literally in our neighborhoods. I know that's uncomfortable. But as we seek to make disciples, as we seek to set an example for a generation, for the next generation to say, how do I live to know God and make him known? How do I set up my habits, lifestyles, and priorities in a way that knows God and makes him known? Not just as something I do in the summer for a couple weeks, not just as something I do the day before Thanksgiving. I scoop soup for a day so that I don't feel bad about picking out on Thursday. Not as something I prepare to do for 51 weeks and do for one, but as a lifestyle, as a priority in my life. That as soon as I walk out, I'm a missionary. I've heard several pastors use the analogy of the race and the pit stop, and we treat church like the time that we do ministry, when in fact church is the pit stop. Church is when we refuel, recharge, we make any corrections we need to, and as soon as we leave church, we are in the race. We are at work. We are in the mission field. There's a church in Minnesota. We take our students to a conference in Minnesota, and at all of the exits to their parking lot, they have a entering the mission field sign to remind their people that, hey, we're here to recharge and refuel to go back out and get to work. Now, this is scary, and we're going to end this episode with this because I could go a long time. I'm off script because the scripted episode I have, we pushed back. So stay with me on this because the home is safe, and that makes us very nervous to rock the boat at home. That's what I said about your neighbors. It's awkward because you're going to see them. You don't want to kind of create problems with neighbors because you got to see them all the time. If we believe that there is spiritual warfare, if we believe that we are at war for souls, for eternity, and the stakes are heaven and hell forever, then yeah, the people who do the fighting are in more danger than the people, as we say, in the rear with the gear. Yeah, the people that stay on base, that stay within the wire, as they say, are safer than the people who go out. But the whole purpose is to go out. The reason the whole mechanism exists is to go out. And so I'd encourage you, as I'm feeling encouraged, challenged, convicted myself, to do the less safe thing, to do the dangerous thing, to set an example for our kids and our students and our unbelieving friends. I always go back, and this will not be the last time you hear the story, but I always go back to Penn Jillette. If you're familiar with Penn and Teller, the magicians, I love magic. Penn and Teller are amazing. Penn Jillette's the big guy who does all the talking. He is also an atheist, and he has had years and years, he would post these videos on YouTube talking about religion and about his beliefs and a lot of other things. But I remember one video struck me where he said, he was talking about how he doesn't respect Christians who don't share their faith. He doesn't respect them. Even though he's not a believer, he's an atheist. He doesn't, because he said, how much do you have to hate someone How much do you have to hate someone to believe they are going to hell forever, to believe you know how they can avoid that, and to not tell them? How much do you have to hate someone to believe they're going to hell, to believe that you can help prevent that, and to not do it? He said, he used the example of seeing a stranger in the street and a bus headed towards them. And he says, I'm going to yell and I'm going to scream. And this is a person I don't know. I just don't want them to get hit by a bus because they don't see the bus and I see the bus. And he said, there's a point, even if they're not listening, where I would tackle the person if I could get to them, to tackle them out of the way. And that's a stranger and that's getting hit by a bus. This is not talking about eternity. How much do you have to hate someone? This was his point as an atheist. But it might be awkward, might be uncomfortable. I might feel unqualified thinking of Moses in Exodus 3 and 4. I might not feel educated enough or well-spoken enough, or I just might pass off that calling. And that's not my job. That's not my job. There's professionals to do that. I'm in this neighborhood by coincidence. It's not part of God's sovereign plan. It's uncomfortable. But Jesus sent us to Jerusalem first, to home first. And that's what this whole endeavor is trying to do, is to prepare you, to help you, whether you are a student listening to this as that up and coming generation, or whether you're a parent of someone who's coming up in that way and you want to prepare them, or you're a pastor at church trying to prepare your young people to get off the bench, to get into the game. How are you doing with Jerusalem? How are you doing at home? Let's start there. There's a lot there, and there's a lot, as you can see, that I'm still thinking through and working through and being convicted through. We're going to keep going. We got another episode. Like I said, what was supposed to be episode 4 is now going to be episode 5, pushed back a week because this just stuck in my mind and I couldn't get over it. So I hope something of that makes sense to you. I hope something of that hits you in a way that, I need to think. And I would say if there's an action point, I like to end these with an action point, or I would like to. I haven't been as good at that yet, but I would like to end with something for you to do, some first step. Just make a list of your Jerusalem. If you're a family with kids, make a list of your spouse and your kids' names and your extended family, their names. Who are your neighbors? Do you even know your neighbors' names? And then go, okay, what does Jerusalem look like? How do I know God and make him known just in this circle? Just in this little condensed pocket of my world where God has put me. How do I do it? And then we go from there and we expand from there. But let's hit Jerusalem really hard. Let's really, really have a foothold in Jerusalem before we think about Judea and Samaria and the end of the earth. Don't hear what I'm not saying. We need to do that. But let's really, God put us here. We literally live here. Let's win here. I'm not doing it either. I'm not doing it well either, but I'm trying. And I'm going to try more intentionally to win Jerusalem. So that's the idea. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.